Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Leadership Boy podcast. I'm Enrique, my co-host Vince, and we're so fortunate today to have a special guest. This episode is directly focused on the Air Force birthday. So happy birthday, Air Force. The youngest, well, not the youngest anymore now that the Space Force is there, but you're growing up. So we celebrate all the years of service the Air Force has provided our nation and all the airmen that comprise that force. And so I'm going to let Vince introduce our special guest. Vince, take it away.
All right. Well, everyone, today we are honored, and it's just an honor to be here celebrating the best Air Force of the world. 73 years in the making since 1947, since we separated from the Army Air Corps. And we have now only with us today the Senior Enlisted Advisor from the Air Force National Guard Bureau, Senior Enlisted Advisor Tony Whitehead. So who graciously took time out of his busy schedule to be with us. And we are just so honored to have him talk about what all he does with the enlisted matters, effective training, utilization of health of the force, and enlisted professional development. So without that, happy birthday, Airmen. And let's go ahead and take it away and know a little bit about you and about the evolution while you were in the Air Force.
All right. Well, good morning to Enrique and Vince. Hey, so listen, if you don't mind, I'm gonna help out because it's not a new position, but with the new chevron that goes with it, I'll let you know I am the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chief of the National Guard Bureau. And with that comes the airmen and the soldiers of our National Guard. So it's pretty exciting. And I want to say it's overwhelming, but I tell you what, it's extremely humbling. But I'm excited to be here today, and thank you both for both first your service and then for celebrating our Air Force's 73rd birthday. So thank you for that.
Outstanding. We're celebrating an epic birthday in an epic year, to say the least. But there's been a lot of great things come from the Air Force this year alone, right? A 4-star selection, first ever, right? African-American to lead the force. Man, I thought I was applauding the Air Force then. Then they come out and select the first female, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Yeah. I mean, they're just piling it on. And then, lo and behold, the chief of the National Guard selects, you as his senior enlisted advisor. And, if the Air Force has ever made a historic year, 2020, even with its bumps and bruises, has been it, if you ask me. And so, for our listeners that are about to get to know Tony Whitehead, what can you share with us about the evolution of the Air Force, something where you came in and the things that you've seen?
Oh, wow. That's a pretty good question. And I love the way you framed it at the beginning about, General Brown and Chief Master of the Air Force Bass, who had the privilege of knowing when we were both Newbert Air Force Command Chiefs, taking a bus ride at the Air Force Academy a little less than a year ago. And we were talking about our plans for the future, and neither one of us talked about where we are today. So this is pretty exciting. So again, thank you for framing that question. So the evolution over the years, this young guy who you see before you, probably about the same age as both of you, started out in the world of security forces, or it was security police at the time, navigating the missile fields of Ellsworth Air Force Base, South Dakota. And at that time, they had Jeep CJ7s. That'll put it into perspective about time that we utilized to move around the missile fields of South Dakota. And so obviously back then, utilizing ICBMs, that's where we were as an Air Force, and the Strategic Air Command in particular. But over the years, obviously evolved from security police to security forces, and where they combined the career fields. So again, been around for a while. Now it makes me feel really old. But to see that change, and in that time frame, 10 years, I changed from the active component to the National Guard. But to see what the Air Force has done over the years with not only the people, our weapon systems, and the processes and procedures, you know, from our former Chief Master of the Air Force to definitely Chief Master of the Air Force Bash now, we are still on a roller coaster ride of changes that are going to just make us an even better force. A couple other things too that I'm sure both of you gentlemen saw was the change in size. I mean, we had a huge Air Force, you know, a couple of decades ago, and to see it being reduced, you know, the way it is now by hundreds of thousands, if you will, over time, mind you. It's amazing that we're still able to accomplish things that we do. And in some cases, because of technology, we're doing bigger and better things. And as you mentioned, Enrique, you talked about the invention of our Space Force. Wow. You know, we never thought we would see that, but it's here. And it's part of our future. And just as, you know, we had the Navy, and from that, the United States Marine Corps, you know, our United States Space Force is going to be just a phenomenal part of who we are as far as our arsenal in national defense, and part of what we will do to keep our universe safe, if you will. That's interesting to say that universe, but that's where we are.
I feel like I'm going to infinity and beyond here, you know, Toy Story, but truthfully so, you know, and beyond is true. Talk about the future. What is your take of the future of the Air Force and the National Guard?
Oh, wow. That's that too is a good question. I see us, the synergies of what we do become more of one. Our DoD as a whole is starting to look at how we can work better together, you know, not just when we have to go out and fight the fight, but behind the scenes where we're looking for efficiencies that we're continuing to look for, and all those commonalities that can help us to kind of grow and develop as a fighting force, or just as an armed forces. But the future of our Air Force, I tell you, we're still going to look at those efficiencies that we can find. You know, from our last Chief of Staff of the Air Force and Chief Master of the Air Force and into now, you know, we're going to see just an increase in our end strength, which is what we need. And our leaders wouldn't have made that decision that that's where we need to go if we didn't need it. So that's a good thing. And we've talked about our Space Force. And of course, at the beginning, we talked about the diversity inclusion that we see. I think the honest conversations that we're having from the youngest of our enlisted men and women up to, you know, the most senior officers across the spectrum. Now we see some very candid conversations about how we can actually get after having the talent that we need in the room to make the right decisions about how we move forward and how we even recruit and retain the right people throughout the year. So we're on the track to do some great things. That's our future.
That's wonderful to hear. And I've, as a Navy person, and I have been sharing this with Vince prior, I was fortunate to be raised in an Air Force home. And let me explain this. I'm from the Meteorology and Oceanography Command. We had a joint venture in education. That joint venture brought us to Air Force bases. So I went to Chanute Air Force Base for my service school. Oh, and that base was closed, and they moved the schoolhouse to Keesler Air Force Base. So imagine a sailor that's supposed to be on a ship dining at the dining facilities on an Air Force base. So, I mean, we were blown away. We knew no better. And then we got taken back to the Navy base and said, what happened? So, but I've seen a lot of change myself. As a serviceman and member of how the Air Force has evolved. And I'm so proud to have them as a sister force fighting the different battlegrounds that they fight. And you mentioned the future of the Air Force, and it indeed is bright. So let's talk a little bit about leadership, and if you will, share your leadership highlights or pearls of wisdom, as they say, of the time when you was in the Air Force and then in the National Guard.
Wow, pearls of wisdom, huh? That's scary to think that I actually have some. What we do, and I know, you know, Vince being a former senior NCO of our Air Force, you know that, we do get an opportunity to train and grow and to actually get introduced to some great leadership nuggets and opportunities throughout our career. So with me, I would have to say, even thinking about my career in retrospect, one of the things I learned, I think it was when I was a first sergeant, we were in the Air National Guard at the time, we were talking about diversity and inclusion. Back then, this was right around the turn of the century, if you will, 2000. And his name is Dr. Samuel Batanzas. And he came to us and he was talking to us, and this is in Denver, Colorado, about, the things that we don't think about, which really resonates with us today. And he said, change is inevitable, growth is optional. So I've heard it a few years, but the first time I heard that was back 20 years ago. Wow, 20 years ago now. And when I thought about it, I was like, that is such a true statement, because the evolution of our careers, of what we see happening in our country, and especially in our Air Force in particular, change is going to happen. There's going to be a change in the calendar every single day, whether we like it or not, or whether we choose to understand that. But the growth part, that's what resonates with us as individuals and us as a force. And what we see is those leaders that understand it, that adopt all those changes that need to be adopted, to include, adding in that element of emotional intelligence. It helps us to be able to lead our airmen through these changes that they're seeing. And on the back end of that, we will find ourselves understanding that, you've got some airmen now that are coming in. We need to kind of understand, we need to understand where they're coming from. And so if we learn from them how to best lead them through understanding their experiences, we'll become better leaders ourselves. And this is not giving up any power or any influence. If anything, it's showing a strength that we have, that we're willing to listen to those that are being a part of the future. Because if you think about it, with the three of us talking, the technology that has come about, even when we were still in, the two of you were still in, you weren't really taught the technology. You were taught that these are the changes that were coming. But interestingly enough, the new recruits that were coming in, they were taught the technology. So they embraced it as part of who they were. That's their identity coming into the force. And so if we think about that, we'll say, hey, you know what? We're going to be leading our force, and we're going to be setting our force up for success in the future. You might want to listen to them a little more. So, and that's why I believe that, when you think about change is inevitable and growth is optional, I think about the changes that are happening, but us as leaders, we've got to grow.
Well, you know what? I also met and am honored to know Dr. Samuel Betances from Chicago, Illinois. So I had a lot of opportunities to meet him, and he's a great individual. I think he's in Guam now with his wife, Linda, but he's definitely showed me the path. He shared with me, we learn to read and read to learn. And I took that and took it to the next phase as leaders. We learn to listen and listen to learn, to your point, and to great pearls of wisdom. And as we go forward and going towards the force, what leadership tips or advice do you give upcoming airmen?
Oh, wow. That's, I tell you what, thanks for asking that question, Vince. To me, it kind of goes to what I was just talking about. When you think about our new men and women, our new service members becoming a part of our team, we're learning a lot of unique things about them as time goes on. What I believe is a good thing for our new airmen, new sailors, soldiers, Marines, Coasties, our Space Force brothers and sisters, is when they talk about their experiences or the things that helped them to get to where they are, meaning to the recruiter's office, they need to speak to them from a vantage point of victor and not victim. We always want to listen to what they have to say and say, well, what can we do to help you through that? And we definitely want to help them through that. But if we understand that it took some strength and character for them to get over some of the things that they've been through their years, in those young years of their life, to get them to the recruiter's office, we kind of need to listen to what they're saying, because if we listen to it from a point to where they brought some strength and they're actually bringing some diversity of experience to our force, we are going to be a stronger force. So to those that are becoming a part of our force and those that are in their first term, I would tell them, hey, talk about your experiences from the vantage point of a victor, not a victim.
That's so critical. And many times we don't consider what's being brought into the team. And that is such a great position to be in as a leader, because you automatically plus up your team when you take all the advantage of what they're bringing in from the start, instead of saying, as I've heard, you got to wait your turn. You know, you're new, just calm down. You can't change the world. Maybe they can, and maybe they can help you if you took the time to listen. So I appreciate that comment for sure, because as a leader, and Vince as well, leadership development, these are things that will change the dynamic of leadership and group dynamics if they only took the time to listen. So when we're talking about your future, because you are the future. Right now, you're standing in a position where you're going to be able to effect some changes. You're going to be able to facilitate some changes within the Air National Guard, and your influence has now grown, by tenfold, maybe more, right? And I know you hold that with with a dear heart, and you will treat that delicately. But what's next for you here in the next couple of years?
Well, from what I understand, even with the COVID happening, a lot of travel. That's good. But I'm excited about that because, and I'm not telling you anything. I'm sure if you talk to any of the other service senior enlisted, they'll tell you there's something about an energy that we get when we communicate with our airmen and our soldiers, that there's nothing like it. You get out there, you talk to them, especially the younger ones, because they're excited. I mean, they're looking to you and thinking, this is possibly going to be my future. And so we have to make sure that when we're out there, one, we're not afraid to engage with them, because those are the things that that actually put barriers in place for them to actually be honest with leadership, is if we we stop engaging with them. The other thing, and I talked to my boss about assuming this responsibility, is I believe a well-educated force is a well-trained force, and it's a better force. So looking for opportunities to insert what we have learned and what we're learning now from our younger service members, or even just from our lessons learned over the years, into our professional development along the way. We don't wait till they become senior NCOs to talk to them about the things that they need to learn to be leaders. We make it a part of every aspect of training. And when we do that, we find ourselves with people that they're asking very strategic questions, they're asking operational questions, and even those tactical questions that will get the information to the youngest of service members, and they'll challenge even some of us more senior members to think about some of the things that we're doing, some of the policies and procedures that we're putting out there, and we'll find ourselves starting to communicate better. So for me, it's communication and finding opportunities to develop both personally and professionally our force.
Definitely looking for those opportunities, in the holistic manner of the individual. We want to bring the individual skill sets to the table and have a seat at the table, which is so true. And for those folks who would like to know more or get involved with the National Guard Bureau, or get involved and understand more about your leadership, how do they contact you or the National Guard Bureau?
Oh, definitely. We're out there on the World Wide Web as National Guard. You just put in National Guard, .com or .gov. And, obviously the Air Force is out there. You can never go wrong with going to Go Guard, or just our active duty Air Force website. And hey, tony.whitehead@us.af.mil. I'm not afraid to answer a question if you send that directly to me.
Outstanding. And folks, as we celebrate this great birthday, right? Because that's what it is. We also encourage you to reach out to Tony at, through the means that he's provided. But if you want to reach out to us, me and Vince, and the things particular to the show, the leadershipvoid@gmail.com is our address. You can send us requests. You can send us comments. If there's something on the show that you would like to see, or a personality that you would like to see us interview, please do that through our email. and we'll be glad to answer it. Most of the time you see us wearing, I'm wearing my, my Air Force golf shirt in honor of the Air Force. Vince is wearing his Air Force shirt. But if you have T-shirts or mugs you would like to have us use on our show, please do that through that email as well.
Yes, and Air Force has the best golf courses out there and dining facilities. But yeah, so again, thank you, Tony. Happy birthday, 73rd of this wonderful inception since we start off from the from the Air Corps, Army Air Corps. For those out there, just remember theleadershipvoid@gmail.com if you want to reach us. But next week, we're back on the road. We're coming to and understanding more about a nonprofit called The Mission Continues. And they are empowering veterans to continue their service and empower communities with the veteran talent. So we have the opportunity to speak with a senior city impact manager, Kelly Austin. So looking forward to speaking with her to know more about The Mission Continues, and folks who want to do something after their service or family members can join in that opportunity. And we thank you so much for being here. Happy birthday again, Air Force, and we'll see you next week.